President Trump ending week 6 back at Palm Beach International Airport. He'll head to Mar-a-Lago for the weekend. Let's bring in Jim Manley. He's former chief spokesman for Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid and the current senior director of communications, QGA. And Chris Wilson, a GOP pollster who was the former director of research and analysis for Senator Ted Cruz and former executive director of the Texas Republican Party. Gentlemen, nice to have you with us.
Thanks, Kate.
As we wrap up week 6, I want to talk first about emails because it's back in the news again. The Indy Star reporting that then Governor Mike Pence used a private email account to do some of his public business as the Indiana governor. They report that he used it to discuss sensitive and homeland security issues. This is what Vice President Pence said just a little while ago.
No, there's no comparison whatsoever between Hillary Clinton's practice of having a private server, mishandling classified information, destroying emails when they were requested by the Congress and by officials. We have fully complied with all Indiana's laws. But, Chris, is it a problem?
Is it a problem? I don't think so. At this point, it looks, as Vice President Pence said, he complied with law. He is. But a
perception problem? No?
Well, look, there's lots of perception problems, but I think the fact, the real issue is whether or not he did anything wrong. If there's any, is there anything that could create a problem for us, for either him as governor or us as a country? And the fact is, it's very different from what Hillary Clinton did with classified documents and wiping of the server. And it's just, to compare the two is kind of silly. I think you can look at what Governor Pence using an AOL account. We can say, I didn't even know AOL accounts still existed, so that may be a bigger perception problem than anything else. At least move to Gmail. But he was maintaining those, and they're being turned all over to public records, just as Indiana law requires. And so we'll all have access to those through Freedom of Information Acts down the road. And so I think the fact is what he did here is not dissimilar from what most other governors do in the way that they operate. It's a pretty common practice to have a private email. It's not a common practice to have a private email server in your bathroom closet.
Jim, bigger story of the week, Jeff Sessions and the meetings with the Russian ambassador. He's recused himself. Some Democrats saying that's still not good enough. Where do you fall on that?
Well, a whole bunch of Republicans have an awful lot of questions as well. I was struck. What I've been struck is by how little his colleagues in both the House and the Senate have been declining to rush to his defense in the last 24 hours. Sure, Speaker Ryan gave a strong defense this morning, but he doesn't have a vote in the Senate, so that really doesn't count for much. Look, he's recused himself, but I think there's serious questions here that need to be addressed, and I think he needs to seriously consider stepping down or at least conducting an independent investigation, because this is very troublesome. There's an awful lot of fires out there.
Chris, your former boss Ted Cruz called it a big nothing burger. But to the points just raised by Jim Manley, what do you say about all those questions that are now swirling and drawing attention away from what probably would have been a really great week for President Trump with his speech on Tuesday?
Well, I think that's right. There's no coincidence that after that speech and what would have been a good week, these things come out, because there really is nothing there. And if you look at the meetings that took place.
What do you mean it's no coincidence?
I mean the fact that it isn't as if there is a secret that these meetings were taking place. That is what ambassadors do. They meet with members of the United States Senate. Members of the Senate meet with ambassadors. These things happen all the time, and so it's not odd, believe it or not, that political operatives sometimes release negative information when someone is having a good information flow time period, and that's what is happening here. There's really, I frankly would fall more in with where Speaker Ryan is. I don't think there is anything going on here. I think it is, and it's a shame that there aren't more of the Senate of his colleagues coming to his defense, because as recently came out, there was a picture of Chuck Schumer and Vladimir Putin having Dunkin' Donuts together. It's just it's really silly to make a big deal out of this, is what it gets down to, and there's not it's not an issue that somebody who's a member of the United States Senate is going to meet with an ambassador. It happens all the time. It's not that odd.
I was smiling because my producer was reminding me that they were Krispy Kremes, just for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Jim, what about the week? I mean, you look at Tuesday night's speech, so much, a lot of attention on the sort of presidential mode that he seemed to be in, and a lot of
so-called presidential mode.
Well, yeah. I even heard Democrats say it was a good performance. What do you think?
Look, the soft bigotry of low expectations, or whatever that phrase is, comes to mind. The bar was set so low that, sure, he exceeded it. But the fact of the matter is, it was the same hateful, harsh rhetoric wrapped up in a slightly more gauzy riff of type of language, you know, in a majestic setting. And of course, as we're now discussing, just 24 hours after that, you know, the good feelings were gone, and they're back to trying to defend their relationship with the Russians. You know, this thing is not ending. It's not going anywhere anytime soon, and these guys got to have to get to the bottom of it, because the dissembling that's coming out of this White House is incredible.
Jim Manley, Chris Wilson, we'll do it again, okay? Come back on another Friday.
All right, sounds good.
All right, thanks guys.